Because the person walking away positive, they weren't going to leave a negative review, but they weren't going to leave a positive review either. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Physician Growth Accelerator, a show where we break down your private medical practice vitals into systems, give you the tools to diagnose root cause of what may be restricting your growth, and most importantly, prescribe what to do about it. I'm your host, Zed Williamson, and I believe every system is perfectly designed to get the result it gets. There's freedom in that statement. Here's why. If you can own the outcome, you may not like it, you don't have to, but if you can own that it is a purposeful outcome based on the system that created it, that gives you the freedom to make the tweaks within the system to generate an outcome you do want. And this, in your world, looks like patient throughput. So why do we care about this? Well, I also believe that it's important to have a healthy medical business. The reason you have a healthy medical business is it allows you to treat more patients. It allows you to build a moat around your practice so you're not concerned as much about the outside impact on healthcare and private practice. And so that's what the purpose of this podcast is for. Now today, it's a really exciting topic. I know it's like one of the most favorite things of all physicians and surgeons everywhere, and that is online patient reviews. Love them, right? No, probably not. We can kind of write off what we believe about reviews. Do I think it's really the best place for someone to go decide the skill or whether or not I should use a physician? I personally don't believe it, and that doesn't matter. The fact is, people rely on reviews. People make decisions based on reviews. So we can have an opinion about it and try to ignore it and then let it hurt our business, or we can just understand that that's the society we live in, and so now let's be purposeful about it. So I am willing to bet that you fall into one of three categories. Currently, you're operating a system that is designed to get you a ton of reviews. That's number one. Number two, you're operating a system that is designed to get you few to zero reviews. And number three, you're operating a system that's designed to get you negative reviews. Now, if you have negative reviews and you felt kind of the hair on the back of your neck go up and you get into that little fight or flight mode where you're like, hey, hold on here, Zed. I do good work. We help patients. Those bad reviews are not representative of who we are. Absolutely. And it doesn't matter. We just got to practice the system that creates the better outcome for your practice. But to understand what to do about it, first, let's dive into why does this even exist? So if you think about the human brain, the brain is designed to survive in a world that is different than where we live today. It is designed to survive, meaning it looks for opportunity to keep itself safe. And if you take a patient, patients are typically ill or in pain, which is now removing energy from them personally, which now has their little automatic decision machines or biases and heuristics firing off a lot more than someone who gets great sleep, eats healthy, and is feeling great all the time. I mean, imagine the patient, they're under stress, they're in pain, they're maybe not the healthiest. They are living a more biased life, a more automatic decision-making machine life. And our brain is designed to look for negative. It's called negativity bias. Now, what's interesting is a patient can come to the practice expecting it. They may have had a bad experience at another medical practice, and they're carrying that along with them into your practice. It's not your fault. It's just what they're doing, and that's negativity bias. And now what they're doing is their brain is looking to make them feel okay. So it's looking for proof that they're right, that it's going to be a negative interaction. That's confirmation bias. So just know that those two things are going on all the time in the background. And so we look at a patient, and when they have an experience, they come in for help, you help them. What's the scenario we're really dealing with out in the world? Well, if you never ever brought up the idea of reviews, and you always made sure every patient was absolutely ecstatic about their interaction, then you would probably just have 0 reviews. Because we're not built to purposely go leave positive reviews for businesses. There's a couple personality profiles out there that do it, but in reality, that is not a bias of ours. That is not a survival technique to go share the story of good. It would be nice if it was, it just isn't. So if you are amazing all the time and your staff is amazing all the time and you make sure everything is absolutely buttoned up, congratulations, you get 0 reviews. Now, if you are good most of the time and you never do anything on purpose, you're going to get negative reviews. And it's not because things were bad. If you look at patient reviews regarding medical practices, they tend to be about something silly, parking, or maybe a little bit behind schedule, wasn't even that bad. Or maybe it was an assumption. They assumed a negative intent from one of your employees and how they were dealt with. Maybe they considered that they were being treated like a number. Maybe they thought that the appointment was too long, or they thought the appointment was too short. The challenge we're working with here is that truth is based on perspective. And so whatever that patient is feeling is true from their perspective. And if it is in the negative, and they have been built to define negative as an attack, then they strike back, and that's a negative review. It's interesting, if you were ever to talk to someone about their negative review and say, hey, I really appreciate you putting that there, I'm guessing you want to make sure that no other patient ever comes here because you believe we can't help patients. The patient would disagree. They would go, well, no, that's not why I did that. And they'll start to realize, oh, maybe that's what I'm accomplishing. Now, I'm not saying say that to a patient, but it's interesting, right? When we think about the root of this behavior, there's another part that influences it, and that is many people live in a mindset of scarcity, meaning that everything is always against them. They have a hard time congratulating the success of someone else because they think success of someone else actually means a negative for them. They don't believe that someone else can win without them losing. That person, and it's not your fault, they've just led a life that has gotten them to that point. They're leading with this scarcity mindset. And so everything that they interact with can feel like an attack. And we have to look at that as true. It was an attack from their perspective. There's not a lot of value in arguing right. You can say, I gave the best treatment to that patient that could be done by anybody. But arguing right doesn't matter because what you're saying is true. And what they're saying is true. That's the problem. So what do we do about it? When we think about online reviews, first of all, we can be a little bit strategic in regard to your practice. Reviews are typically going to be left by people under the age of 50. That's the majority. Now, of course, people leave reviews after that. And the reviews are going to be utilized more by women under the age of 60 than other people. So if your practice, for instance, is a practice of whatever specialty you're in, maybe all of your patients or a high majority of your patients are men over 70, online reviews probably is not a huge thing for your practice. If the specialty you're in has patients, more in the millennial and Gen X age, kind of up to 40, up to 42-ish, then reviews are a big deal. It impacts decisions in a huge way, and you have to take control of it. So how do we do this? Well, one thing is when we think about bias or heuristics, a patient in your office is likely getting the type of service that they know they need. What happens is they leave, and then they remember one thing, Or maybe they get in a conversation with someone and someone else goes, well, that's not right that happened. And they start going, yeah, that's right. I've got this scarcity mindset and I'm feeling attacked and I got to go online and make sure that I leave my opinion. But if we had talked to the patient right at checkout and gotten a sense of how things were, we could completely change the course of what that patient review experience feels like. So here's an example. At checkout, you train the person to ask the patient a very specific question. You say, "Hi, patient, we are always looking to improve our interaction with patients. We know it's probably not perfect every single time, and we love hearing feedback from our patients that can help us make it better for you. Can you tell me, was there anything that could have gone better for you today in your interaction with our office?" And think of the value of asking a patient that. How many of those patients are being asked that by other practices? Probably none to few. So it sets you on a different level right out the gate. And then let's say they have something. Well, my appointment was at noon and I took off of work and people rely on me and I wasn't able to get, I didn't go back into the room until 1 and then the physician didn't come in till 1:30. So now they're telling you at the office and the person can communicate with them. Gosh, I'm so glad you brought that to my attention. I'm going to take some notes here and we're going to look into our process to see what really caused that outcome. And I can't tell you how much it means to me that you gave me that feedback. Now, at that point, what is the likelihood that that patient is going to walk out and write a negative review? Basically 0. Why? Because they felt heard. That's all patients want. They don't want to feel like a number, and they want to feel heard. And so just that short interaction created an opportunity to feel heard from the patient. It reduces this attack feeling that they potentially had because the fact that you asked about their experience means you weren't attacking, that maybe something went off that wasn't supposed to. That happens. Chances are that patient, maybe did something on the drive to the practice that someone else was upset about. We all do things every once in a while. We're not perfect. But if we let things fester and we let it on their own, the outcome is 0 positive reviews and typically negative ones. So now, let's review that same scenario and let's say the patient was happy. So, patient, we always want to get feedback, make sure that we're improving. I'm sure everything wasn't perfect. Is there anything that could have gone better? No, this was great. I really appreciate everything you guys do for me. This was an awesome experience. Patient, I truly appreciate that. And we love it when we hear that feedback. We want more people to know. Would you be against leaving us a review online in whatever format is best for you? And the right personality profile is going to go, you know what? Absolutely, I'd be happy to. Some personality profiles are going to say, sure, and they won't because it's just not their thing. But now look what you've done. You've set the intention from a positive standpoint for someone who is walking away positive. Because the person walking away positive, they weren't going to leave a negative review, but they weren't going to leave a positive review either. Now you've driven some behavior. And if you really want to make it easy, you do something like have a QR code at the desk for them to pull out their phone and scan. And there's a lot of free services online where you can just go get a custom QR code that takes you to your review page on Google, Facebook, whatever you want the reviews to be. But think how simple that is. These patients are already going to check out. They're already talking to somebody. And all we have to do is ask that patient, how was the experience? Get that feedback. Be excited about the feedback that's negative and positive, because negative helps get you better and positive helps you get more reviews. And then help guide that positive person. Ask them a favor. Hey, can you do a favor for me? We want more patients to know what the experience is like here. Would you mind leaving us a review? And then make it easy on them. If you don't know how, I have a little QR code you can scan. Boom. Your reviews go way up, and it will impact your practice. Now, one last aspect of this, because there's a human side of this that we haven't discussed yet that sometimes can be a problem. You might be saying to yourself, Zed, it sounds good. I don't know about the person at checkout remembering to do that all the time. Okay, I get it. Here's such a cool thing to measure, though. Measuring is important in business. You know exactly how many patients checked out. And you know how many patients, if we ask this question, gave you feedback on things that could be improved or gave you positive feedback. Just have the person tally it up every day and celebrate it. So Susan at checkout at the end of the day says we checked out 45 patients, 3 gave us some constructive feedback, and the rest gave us positive feedback. That's great. Nice work, Susan. Appreciate it. And then you're going to see a pretty reliable percentage of those 42 people who gave positive feedback end up leaving reviews. And you make it a team sport within the organization. You're doing it on purpose. You can also use it from a management and leading standpoint. Let's say you have an employee who tends to do something that you don't think is very valuable for the practice. Maybe they look at their phone when a patient's in the room. Maybe you don't like how they sound on the phone from a tone standpoint, and they sound like maybe they're rude. Well, now you can bring Susan in and say, hey, Bob, you know how every once in a while you look at your phone, and I've asked you not to because it's not a great look for the patients. Well, Susan is asking this question at the very end, and I think we should all work together to make sure that when Susan asks that question, that we get a positive response. You good with that? You on board? And you're going to get a yes. And people are going to feel like the work they're doing is with purpose. It's there for a specific outcome. It's not just because the boss, the manager, the owner said, I want you to do it this way. They're actually adding to what Susan is getting feedback on. And then guess what? When Susan gets feedback, that can be reported on at the end of the month. Hey, we got 9 patients who gave us constructive criticism around their experience. Here were the topics. And at that point, you can decide, wow, these are pretty big. We should look to find out the root cause and tweak this. Or, okay, it's probably someone just had a bad day. Or, you know what, this is all lining up on Bob's behavior. Let's talk to Bob. That's the beauty of looking at these things as systems and realizing that every system is perfectly designed to get the result it gets. You can dive in, find the piece that needs to be tweaked, and create a better outcome. Now, if you are ever curious about how your system is or your practice vitals, you can go to physiciangrowthaccelerator.com and click on Vitals. Thanks, and we'll see you again on the Physician Growth Accelerator.